have known this, but Yu-Gi-Oh! Has an FTK problem. Make sure you guys smash the crap out of that subscribe button so you guys don't miss out on more awesome content. Now, this is something kind of crazy to think about out here, because this actually is, I think, the first time that I can sit down and go, wow, there are 10 FTKs that are slightly viable between what's to come and, you know, what we're currently dealing with here. So I'm going to go through these. So we actively have two ways to FTK with Gimmick Puppets with future support. All right, now that's kind of freaking hilarious to think about out here, because everybody's looking at this Gimmick Puppet support. They're like, oh, this is so bad, all right? And I was kind of impressed. They're like, well, you know, nobody's going to play Gimmick Puppets out here, or you're going to Gimmick Puppet lock your opponent. Well, here's the thing. They're an FTK now. All right, you're going to grinder puppet this stuff up through your opponent. You can get really cheesy and try out like the sub little OTK lines with like Destiny Leo and things like that. But I don't think people really grasp at these sorts of things and go, you know, the deck is so bad, you know, I just need to turn to beat it. It's like, I don't know what anime version of Copium that you're over here just thinking that you're going to get, but that's not the case. What we're dealing with here is a deck that genuinely does not give you the chance to play the game. It'll fully interact. Now, obviously, most FTKs, depending on, you know, hand trap situation and things like that, can be stopped by a majority of these sorts of things. But the fact that come, you know, August, when you're looking at Infinite Forbidden and you're like, wow, you know, you're going to have two Gimmick Puppet FTKs to deal. So that's the DLC, as we're going to call it here, because we're not quite there yet. All right, now, most of you might have seen out of the last couple regionals, there's been some Volcanic FTK activity out here. That's right. Kurenai being able to burn your opponent, some of the interactions with the Volcanic stuff gives you a real happy moment to appreciate, you know, this format. And I know, yeah, just let the Volcanic players do the thing. This is to bring awareness to these FTKs, all right? It's to make you aware that these exist. All right, and that's the first one, is just Kurenai burn damage and so forth, just to kind of close out the game. Ain't no hand trap going to be stopping that unless you're trying to stop Volcanic stuff. But if you're wasting an Ash on a Rimfire and your opponent still has 4 cards in hand and they haven't even done full Snake Eyes combo on you, well, you're probably going to lose the game. I'm just throwing that out there, you know. Even if they don't FTK you, you still got to deal with the rest of this. Now, there are 4 active ways to FTK with Snake Eyes, and I think the most notable one that has shown up recently was the Blaze Bombard Phoenix. Yeah, I know, right? Just ban Blaze Bombard Phoenix, you know. Yeah, we've been saying that for years at this point. Every time this discussion comes up, I mean, it's always some sort of possible Black Garden / FTK with this. And to be fair with you, most of those FTKs aren't what I'm going to classify as like super good. You know what I mean? Like, you've really got to kind of consider out here that if you're trying to go down one of those FTK routes, that, well, things might not necessarily go in your favor. But I think the Blaze Bombard Phoenix in Snake Eyes has a huge consistency boost available to you and gives you the chance to actually use it. It does. We do have regional data with this now, so it's when you're leaving the realm of what we're going to call make-believe land down here, and you start to get into the higher tiered competition. And, you know, maybe round 1, round 2, you could run into an FTK at a regional. Like, that's definitely a possibility. But when you start seeing these decks crossing over into the realm of, oh, wow, you know, that topped a regional, then you're getting into the consistency side of things. And honestly, I personally think FTKs are okay to exist, but they need to not affect or be consistent. Like, you can always come up with something. I mean, there's some crazy hand loops out there that you can do. Like, we saw one card, Heracles, that, you know, you could pull off in the OCG, but one hand trap cuts those off. When you're pressing over to that consistency line here, that's where our issue starts to lie. Now, that being said, what about, there's 2 active ways to Dark World FTK. Little interesting little methods to that. And there is one for Horus. Some of them similarly going over. So I'm not going to go too far into that. You can look up Dark World FTK. But the Horus package pretty much uses the same technology. You know, Ultimi Bishi Bulkin with Geonated Transverser seems to be one of, in the Machu Mech. You know, you've got other FTKs, like I said, that are floating around in the format. We've had Virtual World show up with the Geonator stuff. You've had Dinosaur also using the Geonator package as well to do this. But these are what I would classify as we're getting into the, maybe the little bit scary of things out here for this. So, is it good that Yu-Gi-Oh! Chooses to have these FTKs be allowed? I think it is good for the sense of people that want to try to maybe break the format, all right? You got to leave I know this is also hard for people to understand, but you have to allow some sort of creative genius to exist within the realm of the game. You can't force the cookie cutter method of madness where you shave down the card pool so much that you take away the creative juices of some of these things. And I also think that it's good to allow some of these FTKs to kind of exist because, you know, like the variance discussion I was reading earlier in the week from some duelist, you know, you need to be on your toes. You need to be ready for every situation. If you totally cut every sort of hand trap and thing out of your deck and you're like, hey, you know, I'm not going to play hand traps, you play it blind going second, and then you walked into an FTK, not only did the FTK player get the one matchup that they favor, you know, I want to be an FTK player playing into the meta that rolls into every going second deck that it can find. That's just like, yeah, we're going to play Evenly's, Dark Rulers, and all of this stuff. But then you just lose to the random FTK that's, you know, slinking around out here. I understand some of the frustration that could possibly come from that. And to be honest with you, yeah, I get it. But you have to, there has to be some sort of creativity for this. And I know everybody that wants to work for Konami out here and, oh, I'd make the best ban list ever. You know, you've never played my format. It's going to be like, no, I don't think I will, actually. And that's why, like, you know, we always make fun of these little predictions that we see on the internet because we're just like, wow, you know, like, I can't believe this is so terrible. And, like, I've read them, all right? They're awful, all right? And I'm really glad that some of these people don't work for Konami, all right? But do you guys think it's okay to have FTKs exist in the game? You got to remember, once again, the whole point of this video was to raise awareness to the current FTKs that do exist, to point out, hey, these do exist, and then to also point out and go, hey, you know, like, most of these FTKs, while some of them are gimmicks, you know, you got to remember they're just gimmicks. You don't have a lot to worry about until you start shifting into the realm of, oh, you know, like, this is slightly consistent. Oh, this is, you know, when you're pushing into that regional top 8 data out here, and, you know, maybe a top 16 at a regional, I don't really consider, like, much worry. I mean, yeah, they might have went X2, X2-1 possibly, to maybe even make a top 32, and I think that's fine, but you're not seeing these builds winning these events. And that's where, you know, the little madness starts to unfold. So, a lot to think about here, but at least, a crazy amount of FTKs being allowed in the game. And, you know, these field spells, being able to protect these Gimmick Puppet monsters from being unaffected by your opponent's monster effects, yeah, that's an entirely different, weird paradigm that we shouldn't have existing at the moment. We'll talk more about the field spell upgrade debate, and wow, yeah, I can't believe they made new field spells to basically deny hand traps. You're really pushing these OTK FTK agendas out here. Yeah, thanks, Konami. Just what I wanted to know is I could get OTK'd consistently. You guys have a good rest of your day, alright? Patrons! Thank you!
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.